do this. Oh Lord. The Smooth 98.1 Love Music, Love Live on a hump of the week, Wednesday morning. Yes, December 11th, 2024. The month of December is running by really quickly. And of course, Christmas is in exactly 2 weeks' time. So if you're getting yourselves into the mood, hey, 2 weeks' time, it'll be Merry Christmas, all the goodies and everything. But we are in the here and the now. It's the Smooth Breakfast. My name is Ayokunmi. And it's time to take a look at the papers. Oh, yes, take a look at the stories making the rounds that have us talking because this is freshly pressed, an interactive session as always. So you know how this works. If you have been a regular, if you're just tuning in, let me walk you through how things work right here. We take the stories, analysis will follow, and then your thoughts, your opinions, your feelings on these stories will come through on WhatsApp. The number is 0809 444 981. 0809 444 0981. We're also streaming on YouTube. You can find us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. You can drop your comment there as well, and I'll take them alongside the WhatsApp messages as we go along. And joining me to analyze the stories this morning and give us some perspective and break it all down, Lakunle and Devoe are a good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, dear listeners. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, dear listeners. And 365 days almost done for 2024. Thank you all for um, keeping our company all through the year. And we can only wish ourselves the very best of what is left with it and a prosperous 2025 despite all the odds.
Indeed. Devoe, good morning to you.
Morning, Ewa. Lakunle, it's not over till it's over. We have how many more days to make the December dirty
20 days.
for the whole of Nigeria? A cool, dirty December.
Like I said, December will be dirty for who it will be dirty for. They know themselves. I'm not in that WhatsApp. But anyways, thank you for joining me on a Wednesday.
Send your application, we'll add you to the group.
I'll take you up on that one. We're going to begin our journey into the papers this morning in the Punch. Let's start talking about some political matters here. Now, the ruling All Progressives Congress has warned that no alliance of the opposition leaders, including former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and former Anambra State Governor Peter Obi, will be potent enough to stop President Bola Tinubu's re-election in 2027. Now, the warning was given by the National Publicity Director of the APC, Bala Ibrahim, in an exclusive interview with The Punch on Tuesday. Now, this was a reaction to a statement that was made by Atiku spokesperson Paul Ibe that both his principal and his Labour Party counterpart have learned their lessons in the last general elections, and they would unite to kick out what he called the incompetent and the clueless administration of the APC. I mean, we haven't even completed 2 years of this administration already, seeing Barcelos where 2027 is concerned. I mean, Devoe, an alliance, possible, not possible, feasible, not feasible. Let me get your thoughts.
Well, here we go again. Let me repeat myself. Here we go again. Like you said, this government is still even begging and calling themselves nascent. That's the Tinubu Shetima administration, saying that we should give them time to turn the 8 years of Shege by Buhari into renewed hope. And already, because of the statement of Akume, that's the SGF, that Atiku and those northerners who are uh, angling for 2027, that they should pack well until 2031. Now, you see, what it means is that the rigmarole for 2027 has started. And with the visits, as usual, that have been taking place between Atiku and Obi, it's obviously sending some trepidation within the APC for them to come out and start saying that no alliance between Atiku and Obi would be able to topple APC in 2027. First things must be said. We've not even gotten a balance with this administration. Okay? We've
Right.
not even been able to get beyond the two policies that they made of removal of subsidy and the harmonization of FX, which has thrown Nigerians into more hardship than they even ever expected, to the extent that conversations are ongoing politically that either Buhari should come back or even Jonathan, who only did one term of 4 years, almost like what you see with the Ghanaian election. Now, the APC is speaking and saying that no opposition or alliance will work with them, forgetting the fact that it was an alliance that they put in place between the ABGA, the CPC, and then the ACE Action Congress then that led to the the APC being
APC.
formed. Yes. Now, in politics, politics is about numbers and consensus. I repeat myself, politics globally is about numbers and consensus. So, what you do is, if you don't have the numbers, meaning even if PDP and Labour Party are not big enough, they can go shopping around for who would give them more numbers and who would work with them to topple the administration that is in power. Now,
Right.
not only is that an equation that you must deal with, you must also look for, and consensus and numbers has to do with structure. You could see clearly in the last general election, and as well as even the state elections, Ondo and Edo, it is a party that had the structure on ground. The structure does not just mean the people, but it also means agents who will not be disloyal on the day of election, so that your votes are then manipulated during the collation center. All of that has to do with structure. Structure also has to do with if you have enough war chests, meaning if your stomach infrastructure is big. Let us speak to how politics in this country is run. So this is all what is required for Nigerians to be able to ensure that whichever party they vote for, that party is able to make it to the top. Unfortunately, the problem here is that we're discussing politics of who will win. We're gradually moving away from the issues that affect our daily lives. Akume's statement was about uh, people from a certain region, okay, winning the presidency. What does that mean? Did Tinubu win because he was from the Southwest? Secondly, is it about where you come from? I've always told people that this notion of North South was an agreement among greedy politicians. It was not the Constitution. Yes, rotation exists in the PDP Constitution, but the PDP Constitution is not the Nigerian constitutions.
Right.
Nigerians
Right.
should
Right. Right.
wake up. The last thing I will say is this: the Southwest is no better because Tinubu is president. Let's take it back again. Who was there before Tinubu? The North is no better because Buhari was president for 8 years. Let's keep going back. The South was no better because Goodluck Jonathan was president for 4 years. I was just coming from Bayelsa and Uyo, and I saw how bad the Southeast Road, which NDDC, Niger Delta Ministry, have been working on for donkey years and have not even fixed.
We get into
Before
that
Jonathan,
conversation. We will leave here today.
yes, you had Obasanjo. Obasanjo literally took steps, and we use him as a reference because when he got the debt removed, it was across all. Let's
All right,
start
Devoe.
talking about people and demanding accountability across board. It has nothing to do with your religion, has nothing to do with where you come from. Thank you.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. It should not be about where you're from, what you believe in. Are you capable enough to do the job? That is what Nigerians should be focusing on, not all this rhetoric that gets bandied all over the place. Thank you for sharing the sources. All right, let's jump into the development. Let's talk about some money. You get to December, money is needed. And there are issues on the outside. Now, the House of Representatives on Tuesday expressed concern over the ongoing cash crunch in commercial banks across the country, calling on the CBN, that's the Central Bank of Nigeria, to address the situation which has disrupted economic activities and caused significant hardship to citizens. This followed the notion of urgent public importance move by Honorable Emmanuel. This is taking me back to 2022 when we had scarcity of the Naira. It was quite a terrible time for Nigerians. A number of people have had issues concerning getting money, and it's out of the banks. The POS guys, they always seem to have money, but banks, either you don't get cash
Sorry,
or
Ewa,
you
we're
don't
not
get as
hearing you.
much. How about now? Can you hear me now,
We're not
Devo?
hearing you.
Can you hear me now, Devo?
Yes, it's clear.
All right, fantastic. Now, in some cases, you can't withdraw over a certain limit. Now, for those listening, whatever experiences you've had concerning the banks, let us know. Send us a message on WhatsApp to for us to understand better about Lakunle. Walk us through this one.
Okay, so this is, for me, in my opinion, more of a social issue. And when we look at it from that perspective,
We can't hear Lakunle.
when we look at it from that perspective, it then borders on us, the people, all over again. Right. The CBN can only do as much as it can do. For example, a few weeks ago, it's always been there, but a few weeks ago, the news made it around again that they set up a desk that you can file your complaints about your inability to get cash from your bank. They put up a phone number, they put up an email address. They send an email address to your bank to complain. Take the complaint from there with evidence that you have notified your bank. Send it to a particular email or a phone number with the documented evidence that it's failed. When you go to banks, I think that it's the process of wanting to make a lot of money, profit for their shareholders. The bank itself devised the means to limit people from being able to even use their teller machine. So, for example, I go to a bank machine. It tells me that I cannot do more than 5,000 naira at a time.
Correct.
So if I want to do 40,000 naira, for example, I have to do eight
transactions.
Don't forget, there is a rule that says that if I'm using a not or lost card on a machine, after the third withdrawal, every other one attracts a fee of 35 naira, I think, 30 or
35 naira.
So 35 naira from 5 other transactions amounts to how much? 150 naira. So imagine that 1,000 places from that teller machine alone in one day, right?
Right.
So the banks make a whole lot of money, and that's why at the end of the year, you hear them say that the throw parties do all those things that they do, declare those humongous profits after tax and all that. Now, to the other side of it, I said it's more of a social issue. Now, the CBN itself told us that from its records, there's about 4.4 trillion naira cash in circulation, right? But almost 90% of that amount is out of the banking system. So where are those monies? It's hidden in under our cooking pot, under carpet, inside cupboard, inside kitchen, and on the edges of the wrappers of our mothers in the markets. So how do we do it to get this money by circulation so that for those people, for those 20% of Nigerians who have more than 500,000 naira in their accounts on a daily basis can go there and have access to the 500,000 naira cash as a whole? So, in my mind, it's a social construct. Every attempt by the CBN to um, drive us towards a cashless economy had always been resisted, whether consciously or unconsciously, because every one of us love the feel of cash in our pockets.
Right.
And that is why so the chicken or the egg, which one comes first? What do we deal with first? Getting the banks to stop all these their crafty
shenanigans,
or getting people to think that, to know that it's safer to keep your money in the banks and do your transactions electronically, so that this issue of cash will be reduced. Besides, it costs us less if we do electronic transactions than the cost of print. Nigeria is one of the countries where the cost of printing your 1,000 naira note is higher than the face value of the money you hold in your hands.
Oh my goodness, Nigeria, the gift that keeps on giving. Let's take a quick break right now. When we come back in, we'll take your thoughts and, of course, more stories as well. This is Freshly Pressed on the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1.
They do. I can count how many shit. I can get the shit.
30 cents, whatever. But the thing is, my question is this: 30%. But do we have the, should I say, what's
No.
what I'm looking for?
No.
You know where I'm going to.
I know where you're headed. No. So we're putting
The cart before the horse.
You already knew where I was going. Okay, you
There's
reserve.
no power. There's no good roads. There's no equipment.
So how are you? So how are you then
going
going to?
add value before you sell to the outside? Welcome back to the smoothest dial on radio, smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. On a hump of the week, Wednesday morning, 48 minutes past 7 a.m. Ayokunmi here, and we are taking a look at the papers on Freshly Pressed. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Lakunle and Devoe are still with me on this one, giving their analysis on the stories this morning, and you as well sharing your thoughts with us. I'm talking about sharing your thoughts. You can keep those messages coming in on WhatsApp on 0809 440 981 0809 440 981. We're also streaming on YouTube. You can find us at Smooth 981 FM. Smooth 981 FM. So Smooth 981 FM Lagos. That is on the YouTube. All right, let's get back into the groove. I'll take a message or two here. Aha, this one coming in. This is Olu. Olu says, the banks I visited recently said customers can only withdraw 5,000 naira and 10,000 naira. I don't know if I should reveal the names of the banks, but like I said, I wanted to know the experiences that you had concerning going to the banks to take money out. I mean, 5,000 naira and 10,000 naira. I mean, come on. Come on. I mean, he mentioned the name of the bank, but I will Foruko Bonwala Shiri, as we say in Yoruba. I will, keep it under wraps. OJ from Banana Island says people have lost confidence in the banking system. Remember the nightmare that unfolded when Emefiele wanted to change the design of the naira. People cried, people begged, people died just to get some of their money, not handouts. Conversations should be had about how to regain the trust of the people. Indeed, indeed. Okay, let's see here. Getting back into this. There's more messages are coming in, but I'll take them as we get along. Devoe, about let's talk about raw materials. We're jumping into the nation here. Now, the Senate on Tuesday passed for second reading a bill that seeks at least 30% domestic processing of raw materials before they can be exported. Now, the proposed legislation titled a bill for an act to amend the Raw Materials Development Council Act 2022 to make provision for processing and local protection and related matters 2024 was sponsored by Senator Peter Iwebonyi representing Ebonyi North. Now, I mean, at face value, you can say this is a good development. But Devoe, looking at the plethora of issues we have, especially in the manufacturing and processing sectors, can we say this also is putting the cart before the horse?
Yes, I think it's clearly putting the cart before the horse. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, it's a policy well intended. It's more or less to protect trade, or some would call it protectionist, to ensure that your country's productive capacity, okay, especially in the mid-level, midstream processing of agricultural products grows, and then in turn, you actually earn more on the export level if you've been able to add value, okay? However, you see, the problem here is I expect the National Assembly to do a little bit more work, especially when they're presenting bills, so that the bills will not have to go through too many reviews or even be shut down. Because currently in Nigeria, we are, um, first of all, we are a highly importing nation, especially when it comes to agricultural products. We import literally on a basis of to export 1 to 4. So that's like 80% of our goods are imported versus the 20% that we export, okay?
Mm.
Which is very weak and low. Now, two, that which we export, even though it's low, is at its raw and natural state. For example, we send out cashew in its raw form. We send out mango. We export, what do you call it? Cocoa in its raw form. Now, the problem here is, yes, you would say, for example, let me use cashew. Cashew in Nigeria, if I remember the last time, was about $2,000 per ton. Okay. By the time it goes to India or Vietnam, when they do the processing, it moves to about $4,000 to $6,000. So before it even moves to the UK, where it's being sold between $9,000 to $12,000. So the question is, why can't we process in Nigeria? But the problem is the cost involved with mounting the equipment for processing plants is heavy. That's one level of costing. Two, most of the agricultural processing in Nigeria has failed. Even many of the major multinationals have attempted, in the likes of Dangote, in the likes of even the Aluminus. Why did they fail? Because when they built their processing plants, be it in tomato puree or be it in orange concentrates, even though you had the money to put up the plants, you must have the product itself to last you a whole year for that plant to make sense. Are you understand what I'm saying?
Right, right. We get you, Devoe.
So many of them failed because they could not amass enough quantity of that agricultural product to have it processed for a whole year. And that speaks back to our primary production capacity. We're not actually we're literally extracting or aggregating and exporting the little that we have in the country. What it just speaks to is the fact that you need a proper agricultural value chain strategy in terms of, okay, how are we going to mechanize production, first of all? The mechanized production, which is expensive and requires land clearing, etc., requires, what do you call it? Commercial quantity production. After you've produced that commercial quantities, now you can then start talking about processing. Who is going to offset the bill for the plants that will now use the year-round commercial quantity to give you that profitability to be able to export? So it's not just to come and say, oh, you must process 30% before you move out. What we're simply doing is that we're cutting our legs off when we've not been able to stand. And I hope they do take a proper look at this to ensure that Nigeria gets on its right footing. Because the truth is, it's an easy policy to implement if you have the foundation on ground. For example, in Nigeria, we have more processing of rice mills available than we have the paddy. So what do you have? You have many rice mills that are moribund, dead, not functioning because there's no paddy. There's not enough rice to put inside the mills. So you can see that situation. Is that what you're trying to ask most of the products that we export? Cocoa, we don't do anything. We just pluck it off the tree and we move out. So the
Right,
point is
right.
this: the committee needs to look further and to see how they can introduce a proper value chain growth strategy for the agricultural sector so that we can get to where we need to.
All right, thank you for sharing those thoughts as well. Lakunle, let's head into the Guardian to take this through. Before I take the messages, there are a number of them lined up already. We're heading into the Guardian. The government argued individuals' use of cybercrime law and defamation as weapons for prosecution in Nigeria came under scrutiny yesterday at an event to mark the International Human Rights Day. Now, International Human Rights Day is celebrated around the world each year, marks the anniversary of the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the UN General Assembly on December the 10th of 1948. Now, during this particular event in question, jointly organized in Lagos by the Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, and the Nigeria Guild of Editors, President of the NGE, Eze Anaba, remarked that the principle of press freedom should be upheld. And SERAP, as well as the NGE, they've asked the President Bola Tinubu-led administration to release human rights activist and lawyer Dede Farotimi, who is being prosecuted for alleged defamation, and to stop targeting journalists and activists in the bid to hold on to power. I mean, we've seen, even before this, we've seen different situations where someone is allegedly defamed and police is involved and so on and so forth. Now, the NGE and SERAP have been speaking here.
So in my mind, I want to be very circumspect in how I speak to this item. Historically, culturally, socially, right? So historically, where we were coming from, some of our grandfathers lived under the colonials, right? And all the colonials did was use the instrument of states to suppress and oppress our people. Now, fast track to 1960, October 1st to be precise, we got independence, and our grandfathers and fathers and our great grandfathers inherited that structure, the instruments of oppression and suppression. And of course, the colonials are gone. So they inherited that structure. So they used the same system that colonials are used to oppress and suppress them. And then they turned around to use it to oppress and suppress their countrymen who do not have access to these things. Over time, we have built it into our system. It has become cultural. It has become part of our culture that you and I will have a quarrel, but because your dad is a police officer, you can talk to two of his details to come to my house to go arrest my dad instead of me, right? Or because your dad, Devoe's dad,
Lakunle, we can't hear you.
are members of the same profession, and yes, a round table where they are drinking whatever they drink, they can make a decision that that boy's business will never go because he didn't greet one of them properly when he passed. So, and then the military came where it is obey the last order, not say anything. So this thing has grown so much into us that at some point we had imbibed it as normal that the law and instrument of states can be used, albeit illegally, by people who have control of it. And somehow that is part of it that we're seeing. Now, to address the issue of the reason of this matter, there is a law that says that what you cannot prove, don't say about people.
True.
Forget that the person has access to instruments of law or power to do whatever. At some point, we're going to have to understand that it is where my rights ends, that somebody else's rights starts, even in law. And if I have the means, please note, if I have the means, I have the time, I have the money, I have the access to use that instrument of law to get what is right for me, or to correct how you feel you've wronged me, and I do it. It should not be seen that I'm oppressing you, because here we are. Whether we like it or not, the law permits me to say, you have called me a name I do not like. And instead of going to fight the people with Ayo, I can approach my lawyer to say, look, tell me to go to the court and file a case of whatever, libel, defamation, whatever, against him. And that's what is happening. I do not want to see it as a matter of politics. Yes, there's a bit of politics here and there in it, yes. But at some point, we need to start being sure of what we say. You know, globally today, you know how much is spent on battling what we now call fake news. Because everything is now so volatile, we don't know which fake news can ignite something that will become uncontrollable. We need to mind what we say, how we say it, where we say it, when we say it. Freedom of speech, freedom of association does not give you 100% right to infringe on my own freedom of not wanting to associate, for example.
But the thing is, if someone's rights is then infringed upon, there are processes that should be taken.
That's where I'm headed. So now that we have spoken to those two things, now the issue now is that people also need to understand that they cannot take laws into their own hands. There are laid down processes that can be followed, and everybody must be seen to do that. So if you don't do that, that's where you have what we have. Processes have been skipped in this case. That's why we're having this argument. But if the argument had just been go to court and we're hearing that it's from the court that we're hearing it, there will be no problem. Apparently, there have been influences of state in whatever it is that has happened. And I think that where we are headed, we need to start being circumspect of all of these issues that I've highlighted.
Very, very important. All right, thank you for this source, Lakunle. Let me take a couple of messages really, really quickly as we round up this morning. Adigboye Gadipiji says, anyway, what do you expect after the salary of the judicial system, justices have been increased by 300%, and the military as well? When they tell you and I that Atiku and Obi don't have a chance in 2027, they know what they are saying. Ajayi Olonilowa says it's only Nigeria that campaigns for the next election starts as soon as the last one is concluded. Imagine a government that has not successfully implemented a single policy in 1.5 years of a 4-year tenure and is already talking of the next election. God help us. Meanwhile, luckily, your thoughts on the cash issue. Fabian, Daniel, and Shola as well are not entirely in agreement with you. I mean, Fabian saying that going cashless should not be forced upon the customer, but it is a choice at the end of the day. Let me see here. Shola also mentioning that it doesn't mean you eliminate the use or the access to cash, you reduce it.
Yes, I didn't say that you are forcing it, but when you look at the numbers, when you government CBN says we have 4.8 trillion naira in circulation, but about 3.87 of it is not in the banking system. What does that tell you? That we like to hold cash in our pockets, right? Then also look at it from the point that how do you feel when the governor of the CBN says that they spent 3,200 naira to print a 1,000 naira note? What will you tell them to do? Would you not say, look, let's put more energy into encouraging people to do cashless transactions so that we spend less in printing naira notes? That's the point I'm trying to make in alluding to cashless transactions, because we need to make a choice. We need to weigh our options, what we want to do.
Definitely. And Shola, if you were listening, luckily actually just submitted at the end that yes, the law doesn't work that way in terms of defamation. He actually did mention in that people should not take the laws into their own hands when they have cases where they are defamed allegedly. He did mention it at the end of his submission. I don't know if you did not get that particular part of this. Nathan says, can something be done about the frivolous charges from the banks? Are they even legal? What benefits are the banks to us these days? A whole lot of questions. Bimbola says, I haven't enjoyed this show like this in a long while. These two are the best. Please bring them on more often. Well, you can catch Devoe and Lakunle every Wednesday, like today on Freshly Pressed. So thank you for keeping it tuned. Tali says, the current CBN policy to register POS operators, a crucial part of the agency banking, has effectively reversed all previous efforts and progress made to go cashless. Like Lakunle said, cash is hidden in places, not banks. It's a socio-cultural issue and lack of trust in the banking system as well. Tony from Marine Beach says, here we are, governance is over and the race for 2027 has been kick-started and thrown in the open. And unfortunately, by the SGF, whose party is yet to get their foot on the ground, I'd expected the APC to be quiet on this, prove themselves, and convince Nigerians with the 4 years they already have. Additional says, many people find it convenient to take their cash to a nearby POS and make deposits instead of going to a bank. Some of these POS guys even give cash back for people that want to deposit large amounts just to encourage them to come next time. That is what encourages cash in circulation. The POS guys are taking over the responsibility of the banks. And Rexy says, Nigerians are their own worst enemies. The banks were introduced to the fact that cash itself is a commodity by Emefele's cash policy. Now, they and POS operators have formed a cash cabal. All right, we really need to go and wrap it up this morning. Thank you so much for sending your thoughts, and thank you, Devoe and Lakunle, for joining me on a Wednesday morning. It was a great time having you guys on the show.
Thank you, Ayo. I hope when I come next week, my Christmas hamper will be ready.
Well, fingers are crossed on that one. Devoe, thank you for joining me.
A cool POS finding.
See you in the jungle.
All right, Devoe. Lakunle, thank you so much. And thank you for keeping it to Smooth Night.